Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek Podcast.
I have been considering what you shared earlier. I have long told myself that balancing duty and personal relationships was not possible. I believe now that I was being dishonest with myself. It is possible, if difficult. However, it is worth the effort for the right individual.
When I feared we may not survive, my greatest regret was that I had not spent more time with you, Madam President.
Please, you must call me Tarina.
Tarina.
Okay, let's get started straight away, straight into it.
Right into the Star Trek.
With the non-lollygagging... Lollygagging.
Lolly Gallagher? Lolly
Trying to
Gallagher?
avoid lollygagging.
Is that like Gallagher Part 3?
Are you messing with my microphone?
No, it's
Messing with my microphone.
all right. So
If yours gets caught in the mix, it's not my fault.
collateral damage.
Yeah.
All right. So to the audience out there, welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. It is episode 122. Am I right?
All right, am I right?
I think so.
All right.
Right,
Episode 122 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Bing.
Sounds right.
In which we shall be discussing the season 4 finale, Discovery, the Star Trek Discovery season 4 finale,
Yeah.
Coming Home.
Hmm.
That's what we will be discussing this week. However, also this week, we are discussing the Picard season 2, episode 3, but that's in the next episode in the
That's
feed.
episode 123.
So if you want to listen to that too, or instead, it's good to go to the next episode in the
But
feed.
if you've listened to that already, you don't need to listen to this one.
No, you can. You can listen because it's a separate show. It's a discussion about a completely separate. I mean, 1,000 years.
But you'll be all
difference.
That
caught.
one's
You'll,
going to be better.
you'll be
That
all
one's
caught
gonna
up.
be better.
We have the synopsis in of this one in the next one.
No, we do
So-
not. We do
Oh.
not have a synopsis of this one and the next one.
Why
'cause they're-
not?
Because they're unrelated podcasts.
Do we have a synopsis of the next one in this one?
See, this is not
That's-
lollygalley. This
that's
is dilly-dallying.
Dilly-dallying.
That's totally dilly.
There's a nuanced difference between the two.
Shameless.
All right. Yes, season finale time. We've been doing two podcast episodes a week for the last. This will be the third week in a
Ugh,
row.
and it's the last one, thank
It's-
goodness.
It's been stressful. Your boys are tired.
It's because it's like comes out Thursday and then have to get it all done by the
Dogs
next
are
day.
barking.
You got to watch so much Star Trek. You got to watch it multiple times. Got to do all sorts of background research.
Discovery is such like an emotional like rocket. Like,
It's intense.
It's always so intense. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like to watch Discovery, but it'll be nice to have a little bit of a break from Discovery and just be able to focus on one show that's not quite so like.
Yeah, and that's why that one where they went to the Gamble Planet that was you know it was,
What you mean what's his name? Chaz Palminteri's
Chaz
Palminteri's Karma Barge. That was it, right? That was his name, right?
Chaz, yeah,
Yeah,
it was him.
Haz Mazzaro.
Hazmazar.
I was even like, it's not Chaz, it's Kaz. Get it right,
His name is Kaz.
Kaz.
But what you're saying is that was a welcome respite because it was a bit of
Pimento.
fun.
Yeah, it was a bit of
Pimento
fun.
Charlie's.
Bit of fun.
Pimento Charlie.
Charlie Pimento's
Kaz.
rockin' Green Dragon.
Wait, was there someone named
Green Dragon wagon?
Was there someone named Kaz in this episode or the next episode?
I don't
It
think
was
so.
Haz.
Oh, you mean the Picard episode? Don't start confusing things here. You're going to confuse me and the audience.
I don't want to
We're
do
discussing
that.
Discovery in this episode.
I don't want to confuse people.
All right, so let's get to the business here.
How about that Federation HQ when it's all warping around?
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was cool.
I was like, at first, my brain wasn't really placing what was going on. I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah.
I agree. It was confusing at
funny,
first.
funny looking like conch shell kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
right. It is like a conch shell.
Future station.
But
It's probably based
still
on the
looks-
golden ratio.
I mean, it looks like an updated version of like your Starbase, whatever.
But most star bases, I don't think go warping about.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But this one was a modular HQ because it like little donut slices that fly out of it and go
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff that we learned in this episode about the Starbase. I was a little confused by how they were able to use more complicated sentences this time. I don't know. Maybe we can discuss that more in detail when we get to
Because
that point.
when Rillick started going off on like her big complicated explanation, I was like, how are you going to express that through numbers and greater than symbols? But then I saw that Saru had a whole
Saru's
thing.
fingers were just gone.
Oh yeah, he was. I look. It's Star Trek. I buy it. They sorted it out. They always learn stuff super quick. So I'm not too worried.
Is
about
this some people say? Do people go, it's Star Trek?
That's Star Trek.
Is that something people say?
That's something we've.
What do you
we've-
think you're gonna get?
What is that?
We've said that on
What is that voice that goes, it's Star Trek?
Don't even worry about it.
I have a cigar in my mouth. See?
Hey there, Charlie. That's
And it'll be worth-
it's a temporal
kind of,
accent.
It'll be worth hundreds of dollars.
kind of like carnival like guy from the
With the big
1900s or something.
Yeah.
In 1900s, that's a thing. isn't it?
Otherwise
We
known
were
as a
born in the- we were born
Hollywood
in the 1900s.
executive. A Hollywood executive, am I right?
Holly weird.
Because I know all about Hollywood.
okay,
They call
well-
me Hollywood Glaubitz.
I know. Right?
No, they don't. Well, what did you all think of this episode? This is season finale. It's the big. This is what people come for. They're very interested in our opinions about this episode. What were your thoughts, Dan? Why don't you go first? You look like you're ready to go. You look like you're raring to go.
I thought it was definitely interesting. I liked I thought the aliens were cool. I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought it was
They're really. That's like really big aliens.
Yeah.
Or is it just everybody? All the aliens are just one big alien.
I couldn't figure that out at first, but I think it was because they kept talking about how there are thousands of life
I think
forms.
there's supposed to be a bunch of them.
There were a
There's
bunch of them, and
okay.
there's one shot near the end where you see like a bunch of them, kind of like it's hard to tell because it's all dark and they kind of look like they're meshing together. That's why, but I paused it there and I decided in my brain that that's what it's like. I did enjoy the episode. It's always tricky with season finales because it's like, what do I really expect them to do? They didn't take any risks, is the thing at all. Really,
I like the episode quite a bit. However, again, as we've discussed over the past few episodes, you really have to be willing to buy into or forgive the confusing setup for Tarka and Book's whole motivation and the getting Reno over there. It's great. I like seeing Reno over there helping
totally.
Yeah.
resolve problems, but that whole side of the plot I still don't entirely buy into. And last week we were saying how, or at least I was saying, that it felt to me like they were just adding on this tacked on drama when I was interested enough and gripped enough by the whole solving the problem of communicating.
Yeah.
And this felt tacked on. It was a little bit better because of the fact that the whole thing with the aliens not understanding the concept of individuality, and so them splitting off, being able to demonstrate we are separate people who have different opinions on how to handle this situation. That was interesting. I like that. And okay, you need to have them doing different things to do that. I still don't know if it was entirely worth it to have that whole storyline that was, to me, a little bit confusing. I didn't buy into all the motivations of it. It didn't take too much away from this episode for me because I did think otherwise the sci-fi plot was really cool. I thought everything that those aspects of it worked really well for me.
yeah. And so I agree with you that part of the plot, the main part, was pretty interesting. Yeah, the side plot. I mean, I was basically. I was right. No, I didn't. It wasn't like a daring prediction I made, but basically I was saying that this season was going to end with Tarka, having to be talked down, and then he starts crying, and then he dies. That's pretty much what happened. Except I thought that Oros was going to talk him down.
I
But-
also thought
but-
Oros was. We were going to get some resolution.
Yeah,
to that.
but then Book was there, and then Tarka sort of the closest we get. Tarka's like, if Oros was there, he'd be doing that same thing, and so I guess that was kind of what had to happen. He had to die. I mean, other than going
No, not
meeting with
necessarily, because they have the whole thing where he pulls out the transporter thing, and all of a sudden says, "Hey, maybe the hyperfield energy will be enough to activate it."
right. Well, I
To
guess
me, they're setting up that he could come back.
right. Okay, so right, something had to. Okay, then I guess what would be more accurate to say is Tarka, for the sake of the story, would have had to leave. Whether he dies or goes to a different dimension, he's got to be gone basically by the end of it. And that'd be cool actually if they brought him back in the future. I would be into that because there is that whole Oros loose end that never they sort of presented us with Oros
In the year 4000.
in the year 4000,
Which is something is easier to do if you're doing more episodic TV.
right.
One hesitates to wonder if they would have a whole season that would somehow involve Tarka, or if he'd just pop in or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
totally different show. Maybe.
I know I'm willing to bet that they don't bring Tarka or Oros back unless they probably have no plans to. I bet. I'm imagining they don't have that in the books.
I found it all very confusing. The Tarka sort of changing his mind at the end, being convinced that maybe he was wrong, but then not being able to change the thing.
Yeah, and at the last minute he was talking about, and oh, by the way, there's fractal reverse encryption, so you can't do it anyways. It's like, God damn it, I thought I had you. It's like, I just got past your emotional defenses, and now those are broken down. Now we're going to shut this shit down, but no, you have reverse fractal encryption or whatever.
It was to me, it was a little off. It was all carried by the quality of acting. All the actors involved did such a fantastic job that you believe them. It's not quite enough to be like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I like
the
that
most
actor
part.
who plays Tarka. I think he's
Sean
pretty,
Doyle, he's great.
Yeah, I
He's
think
really
he's pretty
good.
he's pretty convincing.
It was probably a little bit tricky to thread the needle between sinister and manipulative and sympathetic.
sympathetic, yeah.
What else was that guy in? I know we've talked about
The Expanse.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Yeah.
remembering that now. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
What does he do in the Expanse?
He plays
He's some-
one of the deputy.
He's some bureauctic,
business.
One of the
bureaucratic
one of
pencil
like
pushers.
the-
Abasala's boss,
Yeah,
basically, or where
right.
some,
That's
some,
right.
he's
Okay.
hangs out with the prime
What kind of
minister.
Earth dude?
He's
So
an Earth dude for real.
I was hoping that
Earther.
that there was something would come of the whole Oros situation because I've kind of wanted to see more of Oros, but maybe they told what they needed to tell. But at the same time, I still maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like I'm not supposed to care. But I don't know. Am I just supposed to let go of that whole thing? It's weird when there's threads, when there's loose ends in a story or a movie, because I don't know am I harping on the wrong loose end? Is this loose end not matter? Should I just not worry about it? But part of me still can't help but be like, well, what happens there? So there is something satisfying when you're reading a story or watching it or doing however you watch your stories, you ingest your stories. There is something satisfying when they address all the sort of loose ends. But I guess there's different purposes for different stuff. And the sci-fi, all the sci-fi stuff is really creative.
Wonderful.
It was it's actually really impressive. They had whoever team that got behind and designed all this shit. They didn't just draw pretty pictures.
No.
They came up with whole systems.
They
and
thought
shit.
shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was really awesome. I was super into seeing the alien at the end. I thought that was cool. I like the idea of those aliens. I could have even stood more of them, but I understand, they couldn't make the whole thing about that, but maybe they could have taken a little bit away. Maybe they could have made more of a conflict. I don't know what that take the form of, but focus more time on the alien stuff. That was really the fascinating stuff.
I mean, the first thing I'll say is I even though, of course, this is a Star Trek podcast where we're supposed to take things apart and analyze and think about things and talk about how cool things were, how lame things were, whatever. So that's sort of the point of all this.
You put them all together and take them all apart.
But that all being said, I'm not I'm not one to second guess the hard work of all the writers and producers and everyone involved in the process of putting these shows together. It's really hard. It's really complicated. However, the fact remains is, you grow along and sometimes something doesn't work out for one reason or another. In retrospect, I think there's some of this stuff that they could have done a little bit differently to make for a more tidy, satisfying interconnection with the overall plot line. Focusing more on the communication aspect, which was done so well when it came to interacting with the 10C and everything leading up to it, because there was an aspect of communication even before they made contact, in the sense that they're trying to suss out what's going on, sort of the building blocks of communication. And they were kind of trying to do that on the Book Tarka side. But again, I think it just felt like some of the characters were forced into situations that I didn't like, with Book in particular. I'm thinking about that. I didn't entirely buy that he would be in there. And so to me, it doesn't detract too much from the overall conclusion. Like, if you're willing, I just take it as, okay, it's a Star Trek thing. I have to accept that that's what's going on here. Taken alone, I thought it all worked out very well in this episode in particular.
So, talking again about the second story, and I guess going off of what you were kind of saying about how you weren't buying it so much, what really did they need to have that story for? And I'm thinking, because what did that story really fuel? What sort of side plots did that push along? Did that push along anything, or did it simply act as a reason to give them time? And I was thinking about it. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head right now is it got Ndoye to crash the ship into him.
No doy.
Yeah, no Ndoye. I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
I'm just being funny, man.
Just being a silly. Okay, so that whole part, there's several parts in this episode where they sort of you thought there were going to be repercussions, but then they're ended up not being repercussions. And that scene sort of began with when Burnham was looking at Detmer, was like, you gotta, you're a good pilot. Suicide run. And then, of course, brings it back to after this was all said and done. It's like, I know everyone was just doing their job, but you ordered me to my fucking death.
Yeah.
But so they played that, and it was like all the reaction shots. It's like, oh no, Detmer, oh, this is the moment. And then the writers are just like, oh, just kidding, not really. It's actually Ndoye. And it's like,
that's a good point.
Okay, well, it's not as dire as Detmer, simply because we know.
And then she doesn't even die.
Because we know Detmer as a character more. We've had more time to get to know Detmer. So by virtue of that fact, we're more probably, I don't know, can't speak for other people, but we just spent more time with her. And Ndoye, when did she get introduced? This season?
No, I think
last
season.
Last season? Okay, well, so I guess she's kind of...
We didn't see much of her last season.
She's not on the main ship. We don't see her all the time.
Yeah,
so
she was the Earth... She was the person they were dealing with.
When they went to Earth in that one episode.
Right, yeah. So we don't see her that much. So I was thinking, maybe they'll just, kill her, and that'll be a nice consolation. But Jesse, like you just said, they didn't even... kill Ndoye. She made it. Not that I wanted her dead, but with the way they approached it, it seems like they should have prepared to make some kind of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so
somebody had to die.
And so if that whole ship stuff with Tarka and Book and all that stuff, if it resulted in Ndoye dying or something like that, then I guess you could see more of a more functional purpose of that plot. It still wouldn't, the motivations, you still wouldn't buy the motivations, right? But you would at least know, okay, well, they wanted this to happen, that to happen, this to happen. I'm not sure what they were trying to make happen. On top of not being Book's motivation, not being completely believable, what were they trying to accomplish? And I'm there may be something I'm just grossly overlooking that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I don't know what it really, how it pushed the plot forward, except to say, we've got a time limit, we got to move. Oh no, it's the battle between will they be on our side or will they be against us?
Technically, it held the plot back because the function was to create repeated barriers to Burnham et al.'s mission to try whatever their mission was at any given point during the season, right? Because all throughout the season, well, not all throughout, but throughout the bulk of the season,
You said throughout
the bulk of the season, Book's actions were actually attempting to create barriers for Burnham.
Were they creating hollow disruptor barriers?
Well, it's just everything he was doing with Tarka, and even before that. Remember, he was arguing against the plans that Burnham was in support of trying to find a way to communicate with this species, as opposed to blowing up the DMA, right? Going way back a number of episodes, right? They've been antagonists now. Okay, I've heard some people say, "Oh, Discovery's just got a bunch of manufactured drama." All television programs are by definition manufactured drama. So that's. I understand the critique. I think it's a silly critique. You can refine the critique to say, yeah, all the drama is manufactured. However, it can be done in a better or more convincing way or a worse way. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. And to me, I think I agree with the general vibe that a lot of folks out there, not everyone by any means, that whole plot line that did feel a little bit extra.
It felt extra. It's trying to make it seem more, because the purpose was, can we communicate with these aliens? Can we prevent them, Earth and stuff, from blowing up? And the Earth and blowing up stuff was kind of sort of like just thrown out there near the very end. But and so all it was doing is basically saying, well, if we face the aliens on our own, if that's the only plot, there's a risk they might say no. But if we have an outside force like Book and Tarka, obviously, like, well, that will give them a reason. That will make us think maybe it won't work out or something. And then it'll try to teach us some moral lesson, I guess, about, so the 10C, right, their planet got fucked up. And so in order to try to keep themselves safe, they didn't realize they were hurting other people. Same thing happened to Book, right? His planet got fucked up, so he's trying to protect himself, but he didn't realize he was hurting other people. And meanwhile, you got Tarka, who is just kind of like lost all sort of perspective, and he's basically of the idea of like, fuck the world, I don't give a shit about any of you, I'm like just going off to the Nexus or whatever.
But has he grown at all, like, from this whole little side thing?
Yes,
like,
I don't know.
Right, you don't know, like, and it's like,
is the message listen to Michael?
He knows that, like, the people that he cares about on his planet, and they're all gone. And maybe he's more coming to terms with that, but he didn't need this side adventure to do that.
Well, I should also make one revision. Even though I said this plotline feels extra, I have no doubt that from a thematic, creative standpoint, what the writers intended, what the producers intended, was to talk about the idea of people who are very close, love each other very much, having divergent views on how to resolve a serious problem, and develop the drama from that. It didn't quite work for me, because I just didn't buy into the idea that Book would be so cavalier, even if I could up to the point where he disagreed with Burnham, like, and gave speeches against it and stuff. That I bought that. I found it harder to believe that he would hook up with some random dude he just met who comes off as all weird and creepy anyway. And I felt there wasn't enough, if they wanted to examine ideas of him being manipulated by Tarka, or his emotional state making him prone to believe in something, okay.
like life after love, like believe in that.
Yeah,
believing
in
life after love,
after love, like believing in. Hey Jesse, like believing in life after love.
Do you believe in life after a very, very, very short break? Do you believe in life after a very, very short break?
Oh, man, there's only one way to find out.
All right. We'll be right back.
Oh, no.
All right, we're back.
It worked.
We're back.
We are working.
We're still alive.
So I guess I wonder if they sort of decided to have this plot point to sort of battle the main plot point first, or if they first had the idea of what you were saying, Patrick, about just trying to make sort of add to the general commentary and the message that the writers were trying to get across. Like, I wonder which came first, it's like, did you write the music or the lyrics first? Did you write this plot about them, like, pushing the A plot along that you didn't really need to, but you did anyways? Or did you first decide you wanted it would contribute to your message? Or maybe they just thought, like, oh, it's some dramatic shit that, like, it's like dealing with two different, like,
no
you said,
doubt it was all well-intentioned.
Different people coming at it from different perspectives and being able to do it while working together versus doing it while...
Honestly, I think part of this is, I think it's so close to being wonderful. I think it's just so close, and granted, I'm a Philistine. I have no recommendations to get there, but I think that could be part of my aggravation, my mild aggravation with this plot line throughout the season, just because as it went on and on and on, to me it became less and less plausible. And in the end, again, to have Tarka be like, oh yeah, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then it's like, is he in love with Oros, or like, what exactly is the deal? We just don't know enough enough about that.
Right. I wish there was some more light shed into
They
that
decided to reveal so much of this stuff late in the game in terms of Tarka and Oros' stuff came later. And Book's whole, like, oh, there's a code of the courier that you never let somebody down once you make an agreement. Like,
and that whole Dread Pirate Roberts thing.
Yeah, that was just cool. But like all that other stuff,
right.
Introduce it at the beginning of the season and then have that be the topic
last
that he's
season.
wrestling with, or you know.
Right. And that's kind of what that's exactly sort of what I was getting at the same point, but making a different journey to make a tangential point. We're just talking. We're just riffing here.
Yeah, we're
just riffing. We're just.
Well, I was thinking an Honor Among Thieves type situation, like on Deep Space Nine, Honor Among Thieves, Chief O'Brien going undercover in the Orion Syndicate, and sort of the emotional and physical consequences of that episode. That can work, and that's the kind of thing they could have done here. So they didn't quite hit the nail on the head.
And
they don't have Cisco.
Man, not
General
even General
Cisco.
Cisco. Yeah,
That's the other podcast. Don't talk about that yet, guys.
Oh no, we
you
broke
blew
it. No, now the worlds collided and they exist in the same universe.
Fourth wall.
That what you were saying goes to my point about how the loose ends that aren't being tied, right? And I wonder I wonder to myself.
Shabby ends.
I wonder to
flapping in the breeze.
I wonder to myself.
I wondered to myself.
We're not going to start this right now.
I wondered to myself.
Not going to start it right now.
I think we did. We can stop it though. Okay.
Zip.
All right.
This is how it leads to like just
Dan
this.
point.
Now this is how it begins. I know this bit. I know this
Bit's
routine.
over. So we're ready to go.
Okay. So we were talking about what were we fucking talking about?
I'm sorry, that's on me. That's all on me.
I was talking about to the point
It's
of
a little
loose,
bit on Jesse.
Okay,
but mostly on me.
the point of loose ends, saying I
Loose
don't
ends.
know if it's my obsession over things that don't matter, which is why I care about these loose ends being tied, or if it's a legitimate complaint from my part where I'm saying you introduce this Oro stuff, like I want some clue that we know something that happened, or am I just supposed to, as the viewer, just be like, nope, it doesn't matter. That's not the important part. You're focusing on the non-important bit. But like you said, if you put something like that near the beginning, that could have made for maybe a more compelling kind of plot, you know. If that was introduced from the start, and then you could tie it up and it would be nice. It's just sometimes I feel like I'm pretty decent at knowing when there's a plot point that doesn't fully get resolved. I'm pretty good at usually picking out, you know, like like your average person good, not as specifically wonderful or terrible.
You're not a highfalutin type of option picker.
When people make a point that wasn't really
People
meant,
make a point.
when people make
Peter
a
Piper picked a pick of peckers,
when
pickled peppers.
When people make a point that doesn't need to be resolved because it already got its point across without tying up a loose end or resolution, you know, I get it then. But sometimes it's just I just wonder, it's like, why was that? I get why it was there, but it just seemed like there should have been a little time for more of that or something. I don't know. And less time talking about how you're going to break in through the book ship through the duct vent, the vent duct. You know, when they were trying
Jeffrey's tube.
When they were trying to get into that Jeffrey's tube or that duct vent, when they were trying to
you just keep saying duct vent.
When they were trying to break into Book's ship on that episode where they blew up the DMA. And then it came back again, and they were trying to go into the duct vent, and
they had the programmable matter,
the programmable matter auto defense system that
slurped them up.
No, that was the hypersphere. You're talking about the hypersphere.
No. I'm talking about the programmable matter that like slurped on them. You know, like it all like went around their shuttlecraft.
Oh yeah, but it didn't do an abyss slurp like the hyper. It did like a cubular slurp.
Yeah,
and so like those, like maybe less time could have spent on that
sort of plasmoid
and more on other things. I don't know. I don't want to be one of those people. It's like, oh, there's so much important stuff happening in the news today, and you're focused on this? Nothing else can happen while you're focused on that.
We can focus on more than one thing at once. And
Quackoni Yakan.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. Look, it's easy. The thing is it is easy to harp on about these nitpicks. Because there's a lot to talk about, and especially when otherwise, again, I really like this whole season. I enjoyed so much of the storyline. We learned so much about many of the characters.
I definitely was never bored, and I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah.
for the most part, never bored. There
Yeah.
might have been a few lulls here and there, but minor lulls. And again,
Minor lulls.
no lulls,
Lulls?
not lulls, not LOLs.
I didn't
Laugh
say
out
LOL.
lou-
I
laugh
said,
out
I said,
loud?
I said,
Laughing out
I
loud.
said LAWLs. Lols.
LOLs, LAWLs, LOLs, light.
Follow the lols.
Lol.
Don't break the lull.
The
Hey, Batman.
the whole. You're distracting me. He's tasking me. He tasks me.
Now the shoe is on the other foot.
Hey, strong side, Batman. Thanks for breaking my cow lamp, you guys.
The 10C, it would have been cool if we had gotten a name for them, but
Yeah.
other than that, I was so thoroughly pleased with that whole plot line throughout the whole season and how it ended up. It was a very Star Trek style, not a true villain, a miscommunication, a misunderstanding, a misapprehension on the part of the 10C.
Was it an ill communication like the time the Beastie Boys played that song in the Star Trek?
The song?
I didn't say swung.
You said song.
I said song.
You said when the Beastie
What
Boys
song did
played
they
the
play?
song.
I said song. Play back the tape.
Beastie
Beastie Boys song.
So,
Wine voice.
yeah, they were talking about the many eyes. The eyes. There's the we eyes and the you eyes. The individual one. Yeah.
all the language stuff was super complex and
this was
interesting.
it was when they were doing complex. When I thought they were still talking in numbers at this point, and she really goes like, "Tell him each of us is an individual one. We are also one as a whole. Our appearances and experiences are different. Yet we all seek happiness, freedom, security, equality. We want." And I was at that point, I was just like, "Wait, how are you talking about?" And it's
Saru,
because
tell
they-
them that Sally sells seashells at the seashore.
You didn't sell the seashell.
Sally
Seashells.
sells seashells
She sells-
down by the seashore.
She sells
Saru
seashells
sells,
by the
like,
seashore.
Kelp
Saru
by the
sells
side of the lake or something.
He is a fish person.
He's not a fish person.
He's a kelp person.
He's got hooves.
My
fish
hooves.
don't have fucking hooves. Come on, man.
The man
Come
has
on,
hooves.
man. When the 10C, I kept thinking about there being some kind of Star Trek Civilization type game. You know that game, turn-based strategy game, Civilization?
I prefer
Yeah.
real-time strategy like Age of Mythology, but I do know what you're referring to.
To which I
Civilization.
refer?
I do know to which what you refer.
Whom?
What?
You
I was
speak
thinking,
in his
so it'd be cool
language.
if there was some kind of Civilization Star Trek game, and then
It probably is.
and they included every single thing. So part of the Civilization game, the 10C, they could be like a species just outside of the galaxy that's all like cuddly and sweet, you know. But they don't really
Are
do
they
much.
cuddly and sweet?
They seem like cuddly and sweet.
I mean, do you want to cuddle one of those things?
Well, it's freaky, but I
They had
bet
some
they love
hair.
it.
They had some hairy tendrils. Or
I bet.
dendrites or
You
whatever
know,
they
those
call
things
them.
were probably so huge. They were probably hard as a building.
Yeah.
You think they're crusty like a
It's like getting,
crustacean?
I didn't say they were
smacked
crusty.
with a building.
You think they've got some chitin shells?
So in the
kick 'em in the
so
kite.
the 10C you could if you attacked them they'd get all scared and sad and
Is
confused.
10C their shoe size?
No, it's not. So in the Civilization game you could attack
Is
them.
it their brassiere or something?
No, in the Civilization game, you could attack them if you attack them because you wouldn't want to attack the 10C because they're cool and they are. All you have to do is give
Yeah,
them
like a Dyson ring.
You give them like boronite and they give you all sorts of shit, right? And they got a Dyson sphere thing and a ring, or I guess it's just a ring now. But then if you attack them, they'd get
Dyson
all,
rings a more reasonable construct
They'd
than
get
a
all
sphere.
sad.
A sphere is ridiculous.
I bet like so the 10C is like the tribble equivalent of it's like a celestial tribble equivalent, you know? It's,
What are you talking about, man? You're talking madness.
Triple quib.
It's a giant crab creature with glowing eyes.
and what I was saying because they're so cuddly and sweet and cute.
Why do you think they're
What is this cuddly and
Where
sweet
does this
business?
get-
They are the 10C. You don't think the 10C are cuddly?
I think they might be.
They're very sweet.
Intellectually cuddly.
They're very sweet. They're scared.
If you mean it
they
as a
got scared.
metaphor.
Their planet got hurt and they got scared, you guys.
I know. Well,
They
yes.
started mining the galaxy for bologna.
Yeah, but it's because baloney. But that was because they
I
were
got
so
your
they were
baloney
so
right
scared.
here.
They were probably crying sometimes. They probably cried sometimes.
What's the sound of a 10C crying?
I don't know, man.
I would like you to mimic it.
It was your idea. You mimic
It was my idea.
Am
but
I
it's-
supposed to yes and you? Is that what's
Yes,
going on here?
yes, and this is a classic improv. You sound like a cold British comedian from the 1930s.
I'll take your word for it on that one.
I mean, I'm guessing.
I'm guessing.
I'm using my mental algorithms to deduce to sort of extrapolate what that might sound
See,
like.
if the Klingon were warned,
Who's talking about Klingons?
if the
now?
Klingons were mounting an attack on you in the Star Trek
Oh,
Civilization
you're back to
game,
this whole game thing.
you could give the Tenzi some boronite, and they would come over and they'd say
This game sounds boring. It sounds like they would send a boring night.
they would send
Boring night at Dan.
a cocktail of like terrified and sad hydrocarbons to Konos.
See, I am into the emotional warfare. With the,
Emotional warfare. That's
I
the
think-
worst one of all.
No, that's a great idea, Dan. I like that idea. I think
It's
you
the
can do a
most
lot of
common
stories
kind.
with that.
Oh man, you're right.
Just squirt some dust on some people and they feel all freaky weird.
Oh no, that's terrible. That's the whole character, that Batman Scarecrow character.
Well, and if this were an episodic show,
but all Scarecrow could
they
do
would
is
have
make
a whole
you freaked
episode
out.
of somebody getting addicted to the happiness dust, and
Well, that's
or
why-
weaponizing some Ferengi sneaking in and weaponizing the terror dust,
Terror dust. Did you notice that?
or like weaponizing the dust that makes you feel that specific feeling you get when you're like 8 years old at a Chuck E. Cheese and you're in the ball pit and you feel like you're about to drown, and you intellectually know you should be safe, but you feel like you're drowning in the balls.
Drowning in
It's
balls.
hard to breathe
I
in
just
there.
wanted to say drowning in balls.
I certainly did not want to say that.
I used to play Tron at Chuck E. Cheese's.
I played that X-Wing game.
Yeah, that was a cool as shit game. That game was awesome.
I cowered in the corner whenever the robots came on. For our we have a huge international audience. Go online, look up Chuck E. Cheeses. Chuck
Possessive.
like with the E
you
is the
don't know
middle
what this
initial.
shit
It's a
is, man.
yeah, E is initial. It's possessive.
I don't know if there's
You are
any
in
still
for a
around, but
treat.
it was I think wasn't it created by like one of the guys who started Atari or something? I think he made it so he could have an arcade. Anyway, look this up.
Look it up.
It's a place where you get pizza and you send kids to, and the mascot is a rat.
It's called pizza.
It is rat.
Why
yeah.
would you have a rat as your mascot? And I'm
and
not
they-
anti-rat. I love rats. Rats are fucking
He likes
fantastic.
Wasn't the drummer like a giant gorilla?
I couldn't tell you. I block everything out.
Yeah, they had some kind of gorilla.
And it was really freaky because there were the animatronics. If you watch, there's a Simpsons episode where they go to Itchy and Scratchy Land, and there's some animatronic jokes they play in that, like some gags, and that's basically how it looks when you like that's
Animatronic gags.
animatronic gags. But we're talking about so yeah, emotional warfare. Because I guess Scarecrow and Batman could just make people feel terror, but if you could mix together all sorts of crazy emotions and just watch people fly with the strawberries.
Keep it up.
Star Trek.
So Culber, we were talking about how the planet has the peace stuff, and notice that Culber didn't go back down to the planet.
No.
He said it was because he wanted to spend time with his family after. Oh yeah, there was another
You think he didn't want to go down because he was worried he might try to like slurp? He would just start licking the ground.
Yeah, he'd become addicted to peace again. You know, addicted to comfiness. That was another part where there were no repercussions when the 10C decided to dramatically hold Book in their stasis transporter stasis field, and
It did make for a very fantasy, and I was emotionally, even though I knew exactly what was going to happen, I predicted that was going to happen. I reacted the way intended with little tugs at my tear ducts.
yeah,
Little tugs at my tear ducts.
you know, well, for me,
especially when Burnham was all like,
yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
what's
like
cool.
a real reaction. Sometimes you get annoyed in Star Trek when some fucking dead person shows up and everyone's like, my word,
Mom.
that's strange.
Mama,
Whatever are you doing there? Most people would react like Burnham. They'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's a fucking ghost.
yeah,
That was in Lower Decks when that guy came back from the dead.
Oh, yeah, Shax.
Shax.
Yeah.
So one scene that I found strangely touching, actually was the Tarka scene when he sort of did the quick change
Yeah,
to be
Tarka.
good.
I
When
agree.
he goes, he's like something about Oros, and he's talking to Book. He's like, he'd have done what you're doing now. He'd have stopped me. And Book's like, yeah, I know. And then when Tarka goes, why isn't he here to stop me? And like that, for some reason, that made me feel a little like, oh man, that.
Oh, Sean
was
Doyle is a great
emotional.
actor.
That was like
Right.
touching moment. But it was a quick flip that
And we
he
just
pulled.
we don't know enough about Oros. We don't know enough
Yeah.
about their relationship. We learned about their relationship too late. We
I
were
think it could have
introduced
been-
to him as a shady, evil piece of shit guy, and now we're supposed to sympathize with him. You gotta walk that line a little bit
I mean,
better.
yeah, they gave you a taste of that whole situation, but I would have really liked to to learn more about their relationship, I guess. Even though, I mean, they said all they felt they needed to, but yeah, it would have been nice to. That was like a nice part. Seeing that side of Tarka is nice, and it'd be nice to see a little more.
It's going to be interesting next season because the 5th season of Discovery it was renewed for a 5th season, but for 10 episodes there because they're bringing it in line with all the other shows.
Are they going to save? Are they going to save another galaxy this time?
Well, probably not, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But they're going to 10 episodes, like Picard is 10 episodes, and Lower Decks is 10 episodes, and I believe Strange New Worlds is 10 episodes. 10 episodes is kind of the newer standard for a number of television programs. My understanding is that the previous minimum of at least 13 episodes was related to Paramount's deal with Netflix. Because Netflix, as we all know, if you are a Marvel fan, Netflix has an obsession with fucking having 13 episodes of things for some reason. And
Sopranos always had 13 episodes.
Yeah, for a while, 13. Where HBO was doing the 13, Netflix started doing the 13. They always wanted fucking 13.
There's no 13th floor, man. Some buildings are.
But there's a 13th warrior.
Sometimes that is
true.
No,
there's always a 13th floor. They just the elevator. Sometimes they skip the button.
I know that. I think everybody who listens to things knows that, like, you can't skip a floor.
Everyone who listens to things.
I don't listen to things.
Wait, we're on the 11th floor? This next floor, it's the same distance as we are from the floor below us, but it's not the 13th. We skipped one somehow. It's not really there.
Yeah.
But there's no button on the Lily Vader, and probably on the stairly case.
Well,
that's got to be confusing.
The stairly case?
In the fire? What do you do in a fire if you have to go to the fire stairly case?
Lily Vader.
And if you're on the 13th floor, that's labeled the 14th floor.
Stairly case.
If you're on the 13th floor, that's labeled the 14th floor.
Have you ever seen that movie, The 13th Floor?
There's a 13th.
It has that guy in it.
If there's a 13th floor,
that guy who's friends with Craig Bierko.
If there's a 13th floor and it's labeled,
I got that right. He's friends with the.
If there's a 13th floor and it's labeled
Gilbert Gottfried.
If there's a 13th,
Craig Bierko is friends with Gilbert Gottfried.
If there's a 13th floor and it's labeled the 14th floor and there's a fire and you have to go down the fire stairly case, how does it know what to tell you to go? Like,
I think you have to drive out of the window in a Cadillac.
Yeah, do they call it the 13th floor? That Cadillac? You're talking about some vampire LARPing.
Okay. The reason I brought it up is because whatever the fucking reason was, I don't care.
You're talking about 13 episodes of Netflix.
Okay, so Discovery was previously distributed on Netflix, whereas Picard internationally was distributed on Amazon and domestically within the United States or within North America on Paramount Plus. Boom. All right. So Picard was 10, Lower Decks is 10, also on Paramount Plus. And whatever the reason, doesn't matter. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All that is to say that we will have a slightly different pacing vibe next year for the next season. They will be limited to 10 episodes. And so whether that's good or bad, we'll have to wait and see. Whether that will be a positive and negative, who knows? But we can make some guesses. And I kind of think, from what I've seen from other television programs that have been either 10 episodes or 13 episodes, when we think of the Marvel programs, we all can think of even the fucking bestest seasons of Daredevil have a few of those few episodes that are just clearly fucking filling time.
Yeah.
Because they have to stretch it out to 13 episodes. And that can be a problem. If you had a full 26 episodes, it would be awesome. They could do all sorts of cool, intricate things. They could learn about Oros and Tarka and Detmer, and we have all these clever little stories. But if we have 10 episodes, it's got to be a much tighter season, but it's going to be a tighter season.
It's going to be tight.
And maybe we don't have...
No.
I didn't feel that there were any quote-unquote filler episodes in this 4th season. I did feel there were some filler plot lines.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
The part where they...
Catch my meaning?
The part where they were getting to the DMA the first time around, where they tried to sneak in through their duct vents, their vent ducts, with the auto combo system.
Vents.
The auto combo system with the duct vents.
Yeah.
And the plasmoid fluid.
It wasn't wasting time because there was some cool scenes, but there wasn't a lot. Wasn't a lot that happened in that episode.
It's like what was accomplished. All right. And what else can be accomplished? We'll find out shortly, right after we take a quick break. All right? Good. All right, that was a pretty good break.
So,
we've returned from it, though.
And we're back.
Whatever fun we were having during the break has ceased. We're back.
It's over.
Back in business.
Back to work.
We're professionals.
So, you were talking about how it's going to be a tight season next season, right? We're talking about the possibility of a tight season.
Possibility of a tight season.
That was you guys were talking about
Okay, well, the subject was brought up. So,
This is like in a trial where like the attorney mentions something or the witness says something, and now the opposing attorney, played by Dan in this case, is now legally allowed to bring up a point.
You always set up these situations that only sometimes I'm doing.
But you admit, sir, sometimes you're doing them.
But sometimes you say I'm in the middle of telling a joke, and you just keep saying I'm waiting for the punchline, and I'm just like, there's no punchline.
That's usually due to the context,
and then I have to make a punchline.
The look on your face and the way your cheekbones.
Well, I'm still
setting us up with a bit.
Your flexed little cheekbones, indicating there's a little bit of mischievous going on.
I'm self-satisfied.
So you're not doing it right
I'm
now.
self-satisfied for sure, but it's for a different reason. Okay. What if? Okay, so talking about another sort of faux repercussion, something that happened that could have had more of a lasting effect was when they did the sport. They made the spore drive blow up. And
blow up.
Do you remember that part where they made
went kablowy?
Blow up.
I saw that shit.
Please.
I said, "Damn, that was the spore drive."
So it's like Stamets.
The door got knocked off.
Stamets.
So the spore drive, it blew a hole. To blow a hole in the orb, they had to do the spore drive, and they
because they were like, we're never going to get back.
Never gonna get back.
It'll take decades to get back.
Right, and so
like a new Star Trek Voyager all over again.
And that's what I'm saying. If they had set up the season differently, so there wasn't just Tarka, because if it's just Tarka, they put him in the brig the whole time, and it's no fun. But if it was a whole bunch of people, they could have done next season like a whole getting back from the DMA or from the hypersphere or whatever hypospray.
Some people predicted that that's what was going to happen, and in fact, that would have
been kind of cool.
Well, we talked about it a few episodes back when Kovich made that whole point, that whole reference about the 3-hour tour, and everyone on the fucking internet went fucking insane.
Yeah.
They went nuts. And I don't mean that in a pejorative. I don't mean to be ableist. I mean it in the colloquial sense of the term. Everyone went fucking nuts.
They went cracking.
And they went nuts. They're like, a 3-hour tour. They're going to get trapped out there in the galaxy, and it's all the story is all going to be about them separated from the Federation now.
Yeah,
they're going to have to build radios out of coconuts.
Whoa, space coconuts. That would have been great because it would have offered, there would have been really real stuff at stakes, and it wouldn't have to involve the entire universe blowing up.
Stakes.
So that was a whole. So along with the Detmer risking her life, Ndoye risking her life,
no Doy.
Book not really dying, but now add this to the list of the ship that was gonna blow up, but then it didn't. It's like all these things that I wish they followed through on at least one of those.
Okay, so I will briefly comment on the idea of them getting trapped. I agree that it would have been cool. I disagree in the sense that I think thematically it would have been problematic because it would have been like, okay, there's another shift. They've already come to the Federation. It's like now they've got to do this thing. And it would be too similar to Voyager and to a certain degree Prodigy. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that.
Well,
on the other hand,
it doesn't have to be exactly like that. Do something with that idea that they're stranded for some reason.
Tilly and Van's almost.
Right.
They probably
it would have been fucked up if they brought Tilly back just to kill her.
That would have been fucked up. And I'm glad they didn't do the fucked up stuff. Like honestly, I'm glad. Like I'm not too butthurt that they didn't. That Ndoye didn't sacrifice herself necessarily.
I'm not too butthurt either. But
I
don't think they should.
Weird.
I don't think they should
needed to keep Detmer.
They didn't need to present such a dramatic setup if there was going to be no payoff.
It was a little Return of the Kingy in the sense that we didn't get exactly like 25 different endings, but it was I was thinking about it on my second watch through when I realized that Book was, the ship was vaporized and Book was declared dead and all that. Halfway through the episode, there's like a whole shitload of episode that happens after that, right?
Right.
And towards the end, especially, it's all like, okay, and Ndoye is fine, and Book is fine, and Tarka we don't know, but everyone else is happy, and like you said, it's there wasn't much consequence,
right?
Overall, it didn't bother me too much. However, there was a lot of that, so I can see how that makes it feel a little bit more artificial in that
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, the Tarina, when she was interfacing with the 10C telepathically, like they introduced that whole thing. It's like that's never been done, but you can't link
she
with
went to the sick bay.
You can't get linked with someone who you don't know anything about. Yeah, she got a bloody nose. All that did was find
She's
out.
fine.
All
Come
that
on.
happened really from it is she found out that they were confused and terrified, which is fine. I'm glad they didn't make it a major like plot. I'm glad they didn't take it and like solve the whole world with
She also
with
helped,
a telepathic.
She helped clarify that they didn't have a real comprehension of individuality. Which, if this had happened, if she had mind melded with them 1 or 2 episodes ago, would have laid the groundwork a little bit, right? And that's again getting back to what I was talking about before. That might have been a little bit nicer than ramming it into the last episode.
Yeah, and I think that's what it. Maybe if there was a little more time spent discussing, like, oh, should I do this? Should I not do this?
Yeah.
When they like you said, they kind of rammed it in, and I'm glad they didn't use it to solve all the problems, but they did introduce a couple ideas. But at the same time, it was another example of like, oh no, Tarina is going to be. And yet if they do it that many times on the season finale, sometimes you start to expect something's going to sort of follow through in that end. And I didn't want Tarina to die. Like, I'm glad they didn't kill her. It's just like, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where it's like so obvious she's not going to die, but at the same time, maybe she would be, and that would be annoying too.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
exactly. It's at this stage in entertainment, the writers do have to deal with that, which is like undermining expectations.
Yeah.
But then it's one of those. I know you will do that, so then we'll do that, and then we'll do this.
Right? Yeah, and so. But they did it a lot. They did it like 5 different times.
Well, so what did you think about talking about conclusions and repercussions? What did you think about where either Book ended up or Ndoye ended up in terms of the response? Tarka is gone. We don't have to worry about him at the moment. But what about Book and Ndoye? 2 people who did things that could have negatively impacted the solution to the problem.
Doesn't seem to be any consequences whatsoever.
Right. So So yeah. Okay. So Ndoye seems like no consequences.
Yeah,
so part of
none
me,
whatsoever.
Part of me thinks that was what happens on the hypersphere stays on the hypersphere. Like,
Yeah,
but they probably had to report to the.
They could have told
They probably
Stacey Abrams.
They could say what? J.J. Abrams?
No, Stacey Abrams. We'll get to that in a bit because there's a lot. There's a. That'll be fun to discuss.
So when they like the Ndoye, the basically saying that did it get reported to the president of Earth what Ndoye did?
I doubt it.
See, it might not have been.
I think they just decided to keep it secret.
And in that case, you could understand. And
the other thing to say,
because they liked her so.
But if not, you'd think
Ndoye.
there'd be some kind of repercussion.
Look, I think that there's confusion out there in the audience about this. Not confusion. I'm not trying to use that in a pejorative sense. I just honestly mean I think there's some confusion about this because they didn't spend much time actually explaining how we're supposed to interpret this. But neither Book nor Ndoye are citizens of the Federation, right? That's point number one. Ndoye is in fact she's there in a diplomatic capacity, so has a certain level of immunity. One would think that wouldn't count for sabotaging a ship, right? Ndoye to me is the one who actually has done something more.
Didn't Earth join the Federation?
No, at the end of the episode.
Oh,
but
was
they
that
weren't.
the end?
Yeah, they weren't in the episode.
joined.
I mean, you'd still think that the president would kind of be like, that was sketchy.
Well, okay. All I'm saying is, like, Book is not a member of the Federation, has no planet anymore. You could argue that Book and Tarka have every right. That's like saying, the U.S. and Britain and Australia plan to do this, and then somebody else decides they want to do something else to fight the aliens or whatever.
Well, I mean,
that you could argue that they have every right to do that. Now, I'm not.
But there's plenty of instances where someone acts like all crazy and they don't belong to that system of government or that planet or whatever, and they take them.
I'm just talking
anyways.
purely in terms of jurisdiction because people are talking about the punishment. Mm-hmm. And first of all, we are speaking about a fictional, fantastical world where they're going to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, but it's still got to have some kind of rules.
We know and expect a future federation to be lenient's not the right word, but empathetic in terms of their punishments. They're not executing.
But they could have taken Book and put him
in New Zealand.
Along with
Tom Paris.
Paris, yeah,
who's still there.
Okay, yeah, they could have done that.
The New Zealand prison is like the Nexus, where even if you leave, a piece of you stays there
That
for
sounds
eternity.
like a bummer. I mean, New Zealand's cool, but being in prison there.
Yeah, being in a
probably-
prison in New Zealand, not so cool.
I'm
I'm certainly not defending the actions, and that's I think one of the problems I have with that plot line is I don't support Tarka and Book at any point during the season. I always think they're doing the wrong thing.
If you steal some serious isolinium blow you up shit from some large organization of people, they're gonna react.
But
you know?
they bought it from a place that wasn't under the jurisdiction of the Federation. I'm just giving the legal
They got it from
defense
that
here.
Hazmazaki's.
Yeah,
But they still-
Clive
okay,
Owen's
okay.
jive
Dragon
towing.
wagon.
Okay, that's a solid point. But they still basically stole shit and fucked shit up.
Well,
you
they
know?
didn't steal. They bought stuff that is illegal in the Federation, but they bought it outside
Reno.
of the Federation.
They stole Jet Reno.
Well, exactly. And it undermines.
That was not
They
cool.
undermined it a little, and if they had played it up a little
That was
more,
not cool.
if they had played up a little more, if Tarka or Book had, and forgive me, they may have said something along these lines, but I don't recall it. If they had said something along the lines of like, we can do whatever the fuck we want. You guys go with your plan. I mean, I guess that's fundamentally what they were saying, honestly. So I'll take that back. Just the thrust of their plot the whole time. Yeah, okay. Maybe they don't get as much trouble. I do like that Book's punishment is it does fit the crime in the sense that he's set to help the people resettle and reorganize their lives, people whose lives he potentially threatened with his action.
And so that's why Ndoye seems like she got off without any sort of repercussions, and Book seems like he got some serious community service, but and it does make sense. It's just so different than maybe what we would expect to happen today, I guess.
Which is good in a sense, because you'd like it to be a better system.
There would have
And
been
that's
at
what you
least
kinda have
some
to-
jail time.
Yeah, and I think that's part of like what you have to sort of write it away as is some of it
I
is
also
just like
think-
an enlightened future.
I
and
also
all
think
that.
it's worth mentioning that probably a lot of us watch this whole season and are fully supportive of Burnham and Rilek's plan for communication because we're watching Star Trek and because we want a Star Trek solution and we expect
Skrillex.
to.
You said Skrillex.
No, I said President Rilek.
Oh, I thought you said
President
Skrillex.
Spoony.
I did not say President
President
Skrillex.
Spoony.
So we are coming into that storyline biased towards their solution from the beginning, right? Because that's what we want to see. That's what we expect to see in a good Star Trek story. We don't expect to see, it turns out, 10C some like ravenous, horrible space Nazis that are just murdering and genociding
Space
people
Nazis.
for fun, right?
But
we
both-
don't expect
but-
that to be the case.
Both Reno and Books talk about it. Reno says they leave behind a toxic void, and that was at the beginning of the episode. At the end, Book told them they were leaving behind a toxic mess. So we know that DMA is toxic.
Yeah. Well, we do, yes, because they told us that. Now.
Yeah, but two different people use that word, toxic.
Yeah. Toxic Avenger.
I think he got it from Reno.
Yeah, I think he did too.
Yeah. But anyway, it's the storyline basically has a structural flaw in that very few people, my guess is, I could be wrong, write us in at feedback at itsgotStarTrek.com if we're incorrect on this. My impression is that most people are not going with Book's plan to be like, oh, let's just keep blowing shit up no matter what, because that'll solve the problem. I think a lot of people watching the show are like, actually, no, this whole like talking to the aliens and asking them to stop things seems pretty reasonable. Again, okay, maybe I'm a hippy dippy and I'm in the minority there. I don't know. You write us in and let us know.
It worked. It worked
did
all
work.
right. It worked out in the end.
Well, okay.
Eventually.
Any odds and ends? One odd and end that I had is that I like that. You know how like we've gotten used to this idea of everyone insta beaming, like everyone insta beams everywhere, except for that one guy at the beginning of the episode who had to run up to Admiral Vance. He all like runs up to him. He's like, Admiral Vance, the Mitchells are, well, he's giving him some report. And I was thinking, why didn't that guy just do the super beam, the insta beam? And then I thought maybe he was getting up to some weird shit on the holodeck, and he had his insta beam. Maybe he was doing some shady business, insta beaming places.
Maybe running up to people is like
his privilege is revoked.
Why is the Mitchell so big? Because it's not joking.
Yeah, I'm not joking, Lee.
Yeah.
Gary Mitchell.
Hey, you guy. Maybe running up to people in the future is like all the rage among the kids because they can transport everywhere. So being out of breath is cool. It's like really cool to be out of breath all the time.
Yes, it's what happens if you smoke cigarettes.
So yeah, which they don't in the future.
Don't smoke cigarettes. Kids.
Snake leaf.
So Gorev and Harl are good buds now. They're good buds. They're like
Laurel
real.
and Harl.
I
real
like
pal.
seeing them. We didn't talk enough about Tilly and Admiral Vance. It's they're only a few short scenes, but it was pretty awesome to see them. I always loved seeing Tilly. I always love seeing Admiral Vance.
It's okay to hide flasks while you're for drinking while you're working on spaceships.
Well, if you're gonna die,
But they had flasks. They had these. They didn't need. They should have.
We had 2 flasks.
He had 2
weirdly,
flasks.
because he said
And
I
they got
got
them
this
from
whiskey.
Targa.
He's like, I got this whiskey from Targa. There's Ryzen whiskey, but then he had like a separate. Like, was Targa just giving out flasks left and right?
Yeah, right. You'd think he'd have a bottle, like and they just drink from the bottle or something, like a big old.
That's what Picard would have.
I think in the 30-second,
he's a gentleman.
In the future, in that far in the future, they should have Mary Poppins pockets in their uniforms.
Yeah, I agree.
Just have Mary
Like
Poppins
like,
show
like
up
Dr.
and give you
Who's
some
Hardy's
whiskey.
pockets right in the uniform.
That's a good idea.
Pull out a whole fucking hat rack. Right out that pocket.
Back tech.
Backtack. But so the Gorev and Harl, their roles were pretty much just to waste people's time, I think, because
No, it was charming
these
to see
people?
some characters.
No, I didn't.
It was the Orion and the Telluride.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
And no, I'm sorry, and I did not mean to say that I thought it was bad. I liked it. I liked seeing them. I enjoyed seeing them. But that was funny that their kind of roles.
Dan never says this stuff when we watch Enterprise and it's all humans.
Yeah, because I'm totally
You speciest.
humanist.
Well, we're all humans here, aren't we?
It's funny that humanist is supposed to be a good thing, but in the Star Trek context, it would be totally
It could be bad.
totally
yeah.
racist.
So he one of
Like
them was
Star Trek 6.
so one was asking
Chancellor's daughter
one
was all talking about
was it
that.
was it
Human
Harl
rights.
was it Harl asking the admiral saying so
how many people are
how
going
many
to die?
people? He
basically?
took his time to ask the question too, and then the other one says,
Hey, bro, how many people?
"Yeah,
did
you approach
say,
the
bro?
fucking admiral and
Hey,
just
bro?
you don't approach the admiral and ask questions like
Sorry
that,
to
man."
interrupt, bro, but how many?
And then
people are
once
gonna take on the planet?
Gorev was all hanging around Tilly being like, I sure wish we could have done more. And Tilly's like, yeah, well, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, right.
No.
Doing more
but
is
they
you
can,
being alive.
but they can warp, so they can transport on the spot. So I
Yeah,
guess it's
Insta-trans.
okay.
Right, it's easy to abandon ship. You just beam over to the
Yeah,
different ship.
exactly. So
As long as you have a ship to beam to.
so more speaking of people dying, Tilly didn't come back to the episode to die, which is cool.
That's very cool.
That's cool.
Neither did Admiral Vance.
And Jet Reno,
But I wondered there for a minute.
yeah, for a minute, but
A
it's
little bit.
But it still seems like that would be a
Yeah.
weird way to. I mean, I guess I could see it. They like if
They're not going to kill.
if she
Tilly.
well no
Not
if she wanted to
Can't kill Tilly.
if
That's
she-
like stomping on a fucking puppy's head.
You just get
Oh,
afraid.
man.
You get afraid for a
No,
minute.
well,
Nobody
the-
wants to watch a movie, even if artistically it makes sense. Nobody's going to be like, "Hey, look,
no,
they
I
just
wouldn't say
stomped a
it,
dog
but
to
I
death."
wouldn't think they would do it for purposes of plot and story. I would just say maybe because she wanted to leave the show, and they're like, okay, you can leave the show, but can you just do this last episode to say goodbye or something? That's the only way I could see something like that happening. Jet Reno, I didn't actually think she was gonna die. Well, I wasn't sure because the last episode they ended it with Jet Reno going like, you gotta save the universe, do whatever's possible, including blowing us to smithereens, right? And like, you remember she said that last week.
That's a word for word quote of what she said.
And at the time I was like, is that supposed to be some kind of foreshadowing? Because it's kind of, it's not, I think that it's a little too explicit to be foreshadowing.
Yeah,
but
I don't think they kill Reno either.
yeah, so I didn't think
I
they.
don't think they kill Stamets.
I wasn't expecting.
I don't
them
think
to
they
kill
kill
Culber.
Culber.
I didn't think they'd kill Reno.
You
And
can't kill
I
Reno.
don't think
She
they
just
kill-
keeps popping
They
back.
don't kill Burnham.
But there was one brief split second where I thought about the idea. It's like, oh no, are they going to kill Reno? And then I was like, no, they're not going to kill Reno. And
that'd
then
be fucked up.
that was like last episode because that would be that would be fucked up if they just
Discovery, I think, hopefully has learned, or the producers have learned, is like, yeah, of course, occasionally a character having an issue, character dying, can provide some dramatic impetus. But on the other hand, people want to watch their characters live and grow. And I know the plot armor, then it's like, okay, it constrains your storytelling a little
But
bit.
that's why you don't try to spread it among all these different people. It's like, do you have 5 different people that potentially are going to die, but none of them are going to die? You focus on one story where the person's not going to die, but it doesn't matter because it's all about it's all about how
exactly
how it
always,
happens.
I was about to say Star Trek, but it's true of all drama. All good drama is able to make it dramatic without necessarily having the sincere threat that somebody's going to
Even
die.
comic books, when Superman died way back in the 90s or whatever,
everyone knew that was such a big deal.
Everyone knew Superman was going to die. Before anyone read it, before it came out, they were like, oh, Superman's going to die. Everyone knew. They already knew what was going to happen, but everyone still read it anyways because it's the question, Neo.
Yeah,
it's the journey from the eagle to
how is he gonna die?
The Mount Humidor, and
Mustard Anderson.
Oh, okay. But Stamets,
you made it gross.
Oh, Stamets' role in these past few episodes, he's just been kind of like. He hasn't been as present. He's just been kind of emotive.
He didn't know that Reno was missing last episode.
Yeah, that was just fucked up. His role has just been basically like a motivator to sort of move the episode along. Present, dramatic shit like, well, we've got a way to get this shit off is we blow up the spore drive. But then he offers the drama. He's like, but on the other hand, if you blow up the spore drive, we won't be able to get back. So Stamets has been kind of moving the plot along in that respect. But
yeah, standard engineer style stuff.
I feel like we heard more of him near the first half of the season.
We've got a coolant leak.
But I like that he's still present, even though they make it a point to keep him present, even if he doesn't have a big role.
And I'm happy that he and Culber will get a nice vacation. I loved everything about the ending of this
Adira, they were looking like really excited at the very end when Tilly and Burnham hugged. That's the most excited Adira has ever been. I think.
They were so happy, and also Tilly showing how happy she was that Adira was getting along and making new friends and all that. It was sweet, and like I said, the Culber Stamets stuff was sweet.
Stamets is boy genius that Reno refers to boy genius. That's Stamets.
Bobcat.
Or
she calls him Bobcat.
I think she calls him Bobcat. I think boy genius she was referring to Targa.
Oh, okay.
In this case, it was a little confusing. Okay. She gives nicknames to everybody.
Yeah,
both Book and Saru give a message.
Got such an attitude.
Both Book and Saru give a message about like hiding behind walls and. Saru to Tarina when he's talking about, I used to think that hiding was protecting me, but really just makes life dull. And then Book was all, given that super species, super bonosaurs, the what for?
Super bonosaurs.
Yeah, that all worked out well.
Super VGA.
Okay, we gotta close up.
We gotta go shop.
I think we were done.
But
end with this quote. Cleveland Booker says, "Love always ends in grief."
Who said that? Book said that?
Book said that. It's true. It's kind of dark, but it's true.
Not necessarily. Not if you die first.
Well, there is grief. Maybe not for you, but for
good
someone.
point. I was being self-centered. Thank you for correcting my perspective. We can't close out before mentioning the guest cameo of Stacey Abrams. Which has sent the internet into a tizzy.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans are all enraged. Ted Cruz tweeted, he was like, what the hell is this? Because there was a picture of Stacey Abrams in Star Trek.
He's going to finally stop watching Star Trek.
Lots of white men are enraged. I saw so many comments on Reddit that were like, I'm as liberal as they get, but this is ridiculous.
Why?
Because they're assholes. I don't know. I don't want to be a complete dickhead about it, but the problem is most people either found it great. Most people I read, I didn't take a scientific poll or anything. Some people might have thought it was a little silly or whatever, but I just enjoyed it as another in a fucking long history of brief cameo roles with famous Star Trek fans. Stacey Abrams.
The way they set it up, it had to have been a cameo. The way they opened the door is like, who's this going to be? Someone?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a crazy person? Is it going to be a calm person?
And Stacey Abrams, not only has Stacey Abrams repeatedly talked about how a huge fan of Star Trek she is. In fact, she talked about that at length on the official Star Trek podcast with Tawny Newsome and Paul F. Tompkins. And it's a great episode of that podcast. She talks about being a young girl and getting to watch, I think, either TNG or Deep Space Nine. I think Deep Space Nine was her favorite, and it was one of the few shows her parents would let her watch and that sort of thing. She's a dyed-in-the-wool fan. She's talked about it not just in terms of being a fan of the show, but how it's actually shaped her worldview to watch Star Trek, right? So she's a diehard fan, and guess what other fans have been on Star Trek throughout the years? Stephen Hawking, Christian Slater, Kelsey Grammer, who's no fucking liberal whatever, Seth MacFarlane, Jason Alexander, Mick Fleetwood from fucking Fleetwood Mac played one of those weird fish creatures, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, that guy from the LA Lakers at James Worthy, he's a Hall of Famer, King Abdullah bin Al Hussein reign of Jordan. At the time he was the crown prince. He was on there. He was on Voyager. Whoopi fucking Goldberg got a job on Star Trek because she fucking loves Star Trek and she was a fan. Now, she's an actress. Not all of these folks are actors, and so they got little cameo roles. She got a bigger role. But that's my opinion. Is like,
they
hey,
need to get that Ocasio-Cortez.
Get famous people on. You know who else is a big fan of Star Trek? Eddie Murphy. He was supposed to be in Star Trek 4, but then couldn't be, I think, because of the Golden Child or something, some complication. Tom Hanks, Mila Kunis, Daniel Craig has apparently been trying to get into Star Trek in some fashion or another for many years because he loves Star Trek. Rosario Dawson is trying to get into Star Trek. So, yeah, famous
Doesn't
people
she do Star Wars?
Love Star Trek and they want to get roles on it, and I'm encouraging that. I do understand where people are coming from, but I don't know. I just thought the reaction was both expected, and when I saw Stacey Abrams, I was like, this is hilarious because so many fucking people are going to be so angry at this.
But I didn't think those people were watching Discovery anyway.
No, but they do. They watch too.
They still watch.
Yeah, and then they get on Reddit and they talk about how stupid it is and how women are in charge or something. I don't know. It's a bunch of. I'm a feminist and I'm not a racist. I just don't understand why
is this black woman?
Why is this black woman such a Mary Sue? They always misuse that term. They totally don't even understand what that term means in a literary sense. But we've discussed that at length in previous podcasts. So
we're very literary.
Yes. Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that because people are talking about that. Your mileage may vary about that particular cameo. I thought it was great because you know what? You know what people who live outside the United States thought? They just thought it was the president of the Federation. They didn't think. Everyone was like, "What are you talking about? Who is Stacey Abrams?"
She's a believable Earth president.
Yeah, she's just a nice Earth president. And by the way, it was fantastic from my perspective to see 3 or 4 or 5 all the people who were in power in that final, basically the final scene. You know, President Relac, Michael Burnham, the president of the Federation, General Ndoye. They're all strong fucking women, and it's not like shoved in your face that you're women. It just happens to be the case.
Just how it works.
That's cool. That's great. That's what Star Trek is for, representation, right?
Well, we said before how Discovery doesn't have any like straight white cisgender men.
When they do, they don't stick around long.
They don't stay. There's
Lorca.
There's Kovich.
Like Lorca. Yeah, Kovich, we don't know his deal.
Yeah, we actually don't know
his sexuality, he likes holograms, if you ask me. I'm pretty sure he's into holograms.
Kovich's character
He's holosexual.
His character is kind of funny in that when he leaves and I don't get loose ends tied with him, I'm not upset. I'm like, oh, that's just Kovich.
Oh, yeah,
because he was all talking about
just disappears.
Remember,
it's a mystery. We'll figure it out.
Because he was talking about, he was like, I'm doing some more important shit than this DNA business.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we
like,
never
what the fuck? I thought we were going to figure out what that was.
And we never heard. I thought we were going to hear back from Bryce at least.
Well, they mentioned Bryce at the end because when Detmer and them they're leaving, they're all like, Bryce said he'd meet us there.
Did you notice they mentioned the Nog and the Yelchin back to back?
Yes, the Yelchin.
Yeah,
and the Nog and the Yelchin.
Yeah, the Yelchin honoring Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov and was sadly died by his own car.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
Freak, horrific, tragic accident, which makes me scared of my vehicle ever since I heard that story. And the last odd and end that I have is I don't know if you noticed, like at the end when they're doing the whole pullout from Earth and they're playing what I referred to as the Lion King version of the Discovery theme. Go listen to it. Go listen to that last bit. It straight up is Lion King style with the Discovery melody.
I don't remember the actual melody, but now I know what feeling you're talking about because when it was doing that, I felt something.
You're all
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
The fucking circle of life, brother.
I couldn't tell what all there was the main HQ and there was all these little dots.
HQ.
There was the HQ. We're done with this bit for now, please. We're trying to wrap it up.
It's not a bit. It's not a bit.
So HQ.
I said H2 British.
HQ.
Inverted my lungs.
HQ. There were all these in a grid pattern. There was all these dots, and I assume they were some kind of future ship.
I think there's an escape pod type thing.
They looked all weird though.
Shuttles. I think they were like shuttles.
I think that's programmable matter.
But they were just shuttles.
They looked 2-dimensional. It was weird.
Yeah, there was that sort of
arranged in a slightly hilarious
2-dimensional
way.
screen that was horizontally.
I think those were shuttles.
Spread out.
I think they were shuttles. Yeah,
I think it was some part of the docking system.
There was a bunch of shuttles.
I'll dock you.
All right. That'll do it. That'll do it for us. So write in at feedback@discussstartrek.com. Let us know if they were shuttles or a screen.
Or you can shut the fuck up.
That does it for Discovery, I suppose.
That's it for Discovery Season 4. Tune in at some point in the future, and no doubt we'll discuss Discovery Season 5 if we're still around, kicking and breathing and doing Star Trek stuff at that time. In the meantime, of course. This week we're also releasing an episode discussing Picard, Season 2, Episode 3, Assimilation. So that'll come up. That'll be the next one in the feed.
And if you listen to
It'll
that,
be episode 123.
Assimilation Nation.
If you listen to that one tomorrow, which is Sunday, then it means you don't have to listen to this one today, which is
I don't know
Saturday.
why you keep. I don't understand the logic. I honestly don't understand the logic.
It's funny to tell people that they can't listen to something they've already listened to.
Oh, I get it. But the thing is, you've also been doing it at the beginning of the episodes.
You're right.
So a bunch of people are going to be flipping the off switch on their
No!
on their podcast machines.
They're podcast machines.
Yeah, they're going to have one of those physical, like those, like it's like a black switch that sticks out and it's got the curved bit and it's like thunk. Like on the old CPUs,
yeah,
like a 286,
exactly. Right.
like on this. Although that would be all
I don't
orange.
know.
Like
I don't know how this relates to podcasts, but
I don't know. It's just
it starts the podcast.
Evocative
Are you
imagery.
talking about making a dedicated gadget to do one thing that phones can do?
I wasn't, but I am now.
Okay.
All right. So
Spotify did something like that. They have some thing that came out that's supposed to.
Did they really?
That's supposed to play Spotify. It's like a device you put in your car. You attach your car and plug
Sounds like
in.
some sort of alchemy business.
Well, it's
get the special rock and put it on your shelf.
Yeah, it's basically sounds to me like your cell phone with limited functionality. But I mean, I guess I can understand why you'd want something dedicated. But at the same time, it's like just use your phone. It's just $90 for.
But if you get a
device
phone
that your
call,
phone can
or
do?
if there's an alert, and then it messes up your
right.
tunes.
You're right. So is that really worth that kind of money? Is it?
I mean, can't you put like do not disturb us? Anyway, we're not going to worry about
But then
that.
you have to turn your do not disturb off.
We're not going to worry about
I wonder
this.
if it gets cell data. You have to connect it to your phone for cell data anyway.
Well, you can do geo
Smelly data.
Geolocking?
You can smell my cell data.
The Geo Arcade. Welcome to the Geo Arcade. Do.
All right.
Geosity.
Tuesday.
So, in spite of all this stuff you've heard over the last couple minutes, please recommend us to your friends and family, people at work.
What are you worried about?
Subscribe and hit subscribe and smash subscribe and the review.
Smash it.
Click the review buttons and
Apple
click all the
Podcasts.
stars. Yeah, go to the Apple Podcasts. Go to the Google Podcasts.
Give us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Overcast, the Podcast Addict.
Go to Apple Podcast and give us a review.
Spodfire. Is
Spotfire.
Is that a thing? Probably not.
Spotfire. Spotfire.
Just go to all those things and click all the stars and the buttons and send us cash money. You can write us at feedback@scottstrek.com. We'll send you our Venmo emails, and then you can just Venmo us cash.
Alphabet Spotfire.
We don't really
incoming.
Need it. We're all doing all right, but if you want to send us some cash, go for it. Just write us in and we'll
paper
ask
xylophone.
Alphabet Spotfire incoming. Imminent.
Yes. All right.
Termination. Apple fart. Smosh fire.
Let's go talk about Star Trek Picard now.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you
Star Trek vibraphone.
Next episode. Bye-bye.
The upside is, when we hit the hyperfield, we'll be vaporized immediately.
Where's the upside in that?
We'll die fast. I hate pain.